Welcome to the SwimSwam Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, we are joined by SwimSwam editor-in-chief Braden Keith from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and senior international reporter Loretta Race from Kentucky. How's it going, y'all? Braden, I'm sorry about your 76ers. I don't know if you claim them or not.
Yeah, they're not. I'm actually happy they lost because then people will start showing up to pickleball on game days again. What if I change my title to editor and Keith? That'd be good.
I think that'd be good. That's what I said on our outtake that the audience won't see, but editor and Keith, it has a nice ring to it.
It does. Cool. Well, we'll workshop it a little bit.
All right. So the big story of the last week is obviously the Atlanta Classic. God dang, I can't talk today. And the return of Caleb Dressel but he wasn't even like the biggest story of the meet swimming wise, right? What we've talked about Caleb a lot. What stood out to you at this Atlanta Classic meet?
I'm getting to the point where I don't care about Caleb so much. I'm getting sort of frustrated about what he's doing to the ecosystem around him, which is when Caleb's at the relay camp, nobody can talk about the relay camp. When Caleb's at the meet, nobody's allowed to be interviewed because they might be asked a question about Caleb. It's just, it's becoming a little bit of a what's the opposite of a circus? A funeral? Whatever the opposite of a circus is what it's becoming. Yeah. It's just like
no fun zone.
Yeah. So let's focus on the other swimmers. Maxine Parker, I think, is the story, right? Like everybody else was fine. They were okay. They were maybe about where you'd expect them to be, plus or minus a second. But Maxine Parker showing that her Virginia training is taken. She was on this course in high school and didn't make a lot of progress at Georgia. First year at Virginia, did well, wasn't clear this was going to happen. But I think her kind of being back on that trajectory she had from her junior career is probably the most interesting thing that wound up happening.
Kind of on the same star level as Caleb Dressel is Katie Ledecky. And obviously, anytime she swims, people pay attention, whatever. A lot of our commenters kind of wrote her off in the 400 free because of Summer McIntosh and, Titmus and other people who have overtaken her times or at least, Titmus had beaten her. But she, I think, put up her second, sub 359 in season 400 free. So I think that says a lot. And I think in the 800 free, I think she racked up like her 29, or she owns the 29 top performances ever. So I don't know. I feel like she kind of shut the door on some of the negativity that was thrown her way a little bit in the 400, kind of showing up, saying, hey, this is a 359. I can swim fast anytime, anywhere, and don't write me off in this event. So I think that for me was.
Do you think it's Ledecky negativity in the 400 free, or do you think it's McIntosh, Titmus positivity to the ignorance of Ledecky? I mean, I don't hear anybody saying like Katie Ledecky is going to go 402 and miss the podium. It's just
I've read some comments from readers that are more like she's done with the 400, and I think it's a byproduct of it's almost dual, like it's because of these other swimmers' performances, and she in their minds is a little bit stagnant, and so I feel like, okay, if she's doing this, 358 in season, then I think that proves that she could potentially rival these people, on the actual world championship stage or the Olympic stage. So. Yeah, I honestly think it was some negativity towards it. People were kind of writing her off for the 400 at least because she's so, far away from people in the 1500 and, the 800 for that matter.
Mm-hmm. I think for this meet, this was Ledecky throwing some Summer shade. And she knew Summer wasn't going to be in the 400. She's like, hey, man, what's up? You think you can go 358 in season? Not tapered at Canadian trials? What's up? Yeah, go win the 200 back. I'm here. I'm here whenever. That's how.
But going back to Dressel,
of course, Katie Ledecky would never express.
She would never say anything like that.
Way.
Yes.
But in my dream world,
Dressel, I was annoyed. I was really annoyed. I'm annoyed when anybody scratches a final, but I was so annoyed that he scratched the 1 free final. That was a total bummer. But on the flip side, I do think he was extremely brave to swim the 200 fly. I mean, that was what his first since I think it was 2021 and his first meet in over a year or just about a year. So I do want to give him props for doing the 200 fly, even though it's not, anything that I don't think he's ever going to race, seriously. But I think it was pretty brave of him to dive in for that grueling event. Yeah.
That's what I think the mistake here was that could have been the takeaway of the meet. Like Dressel, if Dressel swimming the 200 fly is a sign that he's in a good headspace, he's ready to go, yada, yada, yada. But Dressel no showing a final, and Mel has been making the point, but the guy who was being pulled in was a Florida guy, so it's basically an internal thing. Okay, but again, that's Florida just worrying about Florida, right? That's not Florida worrying about the sport, worrying about everybody else in the field. That's Florida worrying about Florida. People showed up to watch Caleb swim, and maybe they wouldn't have taken the time to drive down there. It's not an easy pool to get to. Maybe they wouldn't have taken that time. They'd known Caleb wasn't going to be there. So, right. I think they sort of, even a scratch would have been a different story, right? Or an on-time scratch. People are trying to call it a late scratch, whatever that means. But that could have been the narrative. The narrative could have been, all right, first meet back, shaking out some cobwebs. He swam an event he doesn't usually swim, which is a different thing for him. So maybe that's a sign that he's dealt with whatever he was dealing with. But instead it's this. So I don't know. That's a mistake. But, as has been expressed to us many times, nobody owes anybody anything and we shouldn't care. So fine.
Yeah, I do think it's weird that of the 3 200s that he, has swam in the past, the 2 fly was the one he chose to swim. I'm guessing 2 free was the first event and he wanted to do one of his more primary events or have a better 100 fly. So he didn't swim the 2 free, and 2 IM was on the last day and maybe he wanted to focus on 100 free, but the 2 fly, which is something he will certainly never swim internationally. It's okay, yeah, I guess it's a training meet. So
I guess I kind of get the mentality a little bit because, he's always teased us with these events, right? Even down to tweeting out that he was going to lead off an 800 free relay at NCAAs, which was a lie. So, I think maybe some of that stuff that from his pre-break career has built up, and maybe it became a thing where if he swam the 2 IM or the 2 free, then all of a sudden there's this big expectation on that. But by swimming the 2 fly, it's pretty clear what the conversation is, right? We don't expect him to swim the 200 fly at any kind of a serious level. So that doesn't come with any sort of added baggage on top of it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So shifting gears to international meets, the Atlanta Classic wasn't the only show in town last weekend. Mare Nostrum kicked off in Cannes. And actually, as we're recording this, we've already halfway through the Barcelona stop as well. So far from what you've seen from the Mare Nostrum Tour, I feel like we've had some good swims. I wrote that it was a little lackluster, and I still do think that top to bottom, but there were some pretty solid swims. Lydia Jacoby swam her fastest 100 breast since Tokyo. Siobhan Howie, 52.5 in the 100 free. Holy Lord, that is what America wouldn't give for that right now, in season or otherwise, any point in the season. But overall, it feels a little meh, which at a pre-Olympic World Championships at this time of the season, I'm just a little surprised at.
Yeah, it is a little meh, but I think the highlight is Tom Rushton's group from Israel, which is, as far as we know, Anastasia Gorbenko and Siobhan Howie. I'm sure he's training other people other than that, but those are the 2 that have kind of stood out as doing really well. And I think for Gorbenko, that 209.99 was in the 2 IM today was a very good thing for her, because she's kind of at that age. She turns 20 in August, where a swimmer with talent like her is either going to keep going or is going to flatline. And we've seen a lot of them flatline. And that, that's a sign to me that she's not, even with the coaching change, even with these other things. I think Sarah Sjöström's swims were encouraging too, for her, because she's had injuries and she's in and out of meets for different reasons and all that. And to kind of pop back in and show that she's still there in a women's sprint free field that, 4 years ago felt like just an insurmountable mountain, but now all of a sudden is wide open, right? There's not this Kate Campbell, Sarah Sjostrom, whoever the other Femke Heemskerk, whoever that trio was, or quartet,
Renomi.
where it was just like, sorry, there's no you. If you want to break into that, you got to really break into it. And now it's, I don't know where those races are going. Right? We assume an Australian will be there.
Yes.
We don't know which one.
I did like your response to that
7.
commenter, Braden.
Yeah.
Someone was like, I think one Australian's going to get second and one of them's going to get fourth and Merritt Steenbergen's going to get third, but I don't know which one.
Yeah. So, I think those are the three things that have jumped out at me. The Japanese men have been swimming pretty well. So, but yeah, you're right. It's not, I don't know. I feel like we've had meets where the Mare Nostrum was big, exciting, but now it's just kind of, okay, well, it's a checkup.
Yeah.
Well, for me in particular, especially in Barcelona, so we have a larger Great Britain contingent. We have a huge Italian contingent this time around, and then also we do have a good, upper echelon of the Japanese swimmers, and the Canadian also. We have Penny Luciak is here, which is great for her.
Is she swimming?
Anyway,
did she
yeah,
compete?
she did. Yeah, she. What was she today? What was it? The 16th in the 100 free she was. So she didn't make the final, but she dove in, she was in the pool. But anyway, but Japan, Canada, and Great Britain, all three had their World Championships trials last month. So they were already tapered, like that's what their focus was. And so we're only several weeks removed from that. So for me, it's not a surprise that they're not throwing down these super swift times, only because that's what that meet was for. And then the Italians, they did have their Italian championships, but next month at Sede Cali is their additional opportunity to gain World Championships qualification. So that's their focus. So either the focus was in the past or it's upcoming. So I feel like this is almost like a training run through kind of tune up kind of thing for the majority of the racers is what I'm grasping from the performances that I've seen.
And then on the other side of the world, we have the Sydney Open, where there were some really solid swims. I'm going to narrow it down to 3 individual athletes. Whose swims do you think were more meaningful when looking ahead to this summer's World Championships in Fukuoka? Cam McEvoy, Kayla McKeown, or Kyle Chalmers?
I'm going for Chalmers because I feel like this is the first time in recent memory that he hasn't been coming off shoulder surgery or a heart surgery. Like I feel like his body is, yes, it's cyborg, but he's like at least 100%, solid at this point. And
half man,
40? Yeah,
half kangaroo.
So he was 47.6, which I think
racist?
is amazing.
It might be, sorry.
He's 47.6 at 100 free, which I think is a terrific time for this point in the season. They had the Australian National Championships non-selection last month, and then upcoming in June is the actual World Championship trials. So to do a 47.6, which is miles above anybody else really that's close to him and domestically, I think that sets him up very well confidence-wise. And again, just knowing that he's pretty much near 100% Chalmers. Some people are like, oh, Popovich, and, this and that. Again, kind of like Ledecky. Chalmers is kind of, King Kyle has done that kind of. And I think it's kind of like, what the heck, man? I mean, what is he? He's only, 24, 25 years? I mean, he's got plenty of juice left in him.
I don't know. Caleb went 50.2 this weekend, so... he's gonna be there.
We're gonna hear from Caleb's agent about this podcast.
Oh god.
I refuse to abide by the parameters of your question because I am the editor in chief and I don't have to. And my answer is Meg Harris. She was injured last year. It wasn't clear if her trajectory was still going upward. Then she busted out a new lifetime best in the 50 free. And that just sows more chaos into the Australian trials meets, which I love chaos. And I think that, having that kind of cutthroat competition at a domestic meet is so much fun to watch. And so I'm excited that she seems to be back and ready to compete for those spots again. So that's my answer. But my second answer is Cam McEvoy because I love a nerd who swims fast. Sorry, fine, that's just my second answer, so you can still have it.
I'll take the other 2 answers.
Go for it.
But this is why I think Cam McEvoy. It's like I think his swims didn't really pop out that much to me. I mean, they were obviously good and his best in a long, long time. But like, 21.8, like Florent Manadou went 21.8 at Mare Nostrum, and it's like, okay, like that. It's a really, it's a solid in season swim. The 50 free is a weird one, I guess, because it's like a 10th matters a lot. But I do think this will mean he will final at World Champs this summer, which is a great sign for him. I enjoyed Kaylee McKeown swims more because her and Reagan Smith are just revving it up once again. I think we're going to see two really, really stacked backstroke fields in Fukuoka. I do think Reagan will make both backstrokes for Team USA. And I think if they go head to head in both of them, it's going to be such a duel.
The only thing I was going to say about McEvoy is that I was trying to look up exactly what it was. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years. That was the fastest time by any Australian, 21.8 in the 50 free. Like for me as an Aussie swim fan, I'm just like, where the heck did all the 50 freestylers go that a 21.8 is like making noise down under? I mean, like that's like you just said, Manadou threw that down just kind of on a whim this week, in Barcelona, and yet McEvoy had to he stole the spotlight with a 21.8. I don't know. I just feel like that's more the case of where Australian 50 freestylers are at this point, and I think that's sad.
Yeah, because their best sprinter swims the 200, not the 50.
Right. Yeah.
Which is becoming the new cool thing to do for male sprinters.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it?
Cool thing to do. Yeah.
That was our main news for the week. Those were the big meets. Let's move on to sink or swim. First up today on sink or swim, Blake Pieroni making a comeback. He's training at Indiana once again with his buddies Cody Miller, Lily King, and the crew. Hopefully he can drag Zach Apple back to the pool too, and we'll get the whole band back together from the Tokyo 400 free relay. But do you see him making an international team this summer? That includes World Championships or Pan American Games.
Do we count the World Masters Championships?
Oh, jeez.
No.
No, I don't think there's enough time. Given those events and where they are for the American men right now, there's so much competition in his events, the 100, 200 free. If we assume, do we know that that's what he's going to train for? I don't know. We assume that's what he's going to train for.
Or like 50, 100 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, 50, 100. I just think there's too much competition among the American men, depending on what happens with Caleb. I could see him maybe sneaking into a final, but I think making the team on this short of a turnaround is a tall task. But I don't know if that's his goal. Maybe his goal this summer, if he can get to a semifinal and place maybe top 10 training 3 or 4 days a week, maybe that gives him the motivation to train for Paris. That's how I would approach it if I were him. I'd see what's still there, see how much I like it, and then try to do some Nick Fink voodoo and work a full-time job, train part-time,
Kidding.
just win everything. But again, Nick Fink is in an event that the U.S. is not that great at right now. Not that he wouldn't compete and make the team anyway, but his events are a gap in the American roster, whereas the 100, 200 free are not really.
See, I'm swimming it though, because I feel like, the Pan American team, I feel like is an achievable goal. Okay, like I know what you're saying. There might be.
Yeah, I guess I forgot how many people go in those events.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
Yeah, I think that, and then also like on the prioritization, like I don't think you can go to Worlds and Pan Ams, right? It's like Worlds and then right. Pan Ams are underneath that. So that takes out a huge chunk of his competition. So yeah. I'm swimming it for Pan Ams, and also I feel like I know he had surgery, but I'm looking at it as like one big taper. So I think he's just gonna, rip something really crazy just because he's had lots of rest, and and he was obviously an Olympic level freestyler. So it's not like he's had to build up. He'll have some muscle memory built in. So I'm swimming it for Pan Ams.
Yeah, I mean, it feels. I guess I forgot about Pan Ams, though, because of his age, he doesn't get U23 or the other one, so he'd probably have to be top 8 to go. But I'm
Yeah,
I'm honestly a little surprised about this evolution with Ray Lewis sort of being okay with a part-time trainer, because he's generally a high volume coach. So I'm curious what Coach Ray is going to learn about this, and his staff are going to learn about this.
I really like that. I'm sinking it, by the way. I'm with Braden. I think he could, if he wants to, if he gets back in the pool and ends up really liking it, he could definitely make a push for 2024, especially because trials are in a football stadium in Indy. I think being from Indiana, born and raised, never living anywhere else, I think his whole life, like, I think he wants to go to that meet. And I think he could definitely make a push to make that team. He's made 2 Olympic teams already. He's very experienced on that relay. I like Ray Lewis letting. I mean, at one point he was calling, like, right before Cody went 00 in the 100 breast in season, like, he was calling Cody like a glorified masters swimmer, like, because he was only doing 1 practice a day, and he's still only doing 1 practice a day. But it's like, but he was okay with that. I think he's kind of like the Udonis Haslem of the Miami Heat. It's like they keep him around because of the culture and what the X factor he brings, even though he doesn't really play. And, it's like, I think if Cody wants to swim at like a level that's maybe not what the college kids are doing, but it's still like pretty high, then I think Ray sees the value in that, of just having him on the pool deck. And he also puts out vlogs that thousands of people see about the Indiana pool, which is like free recruiting.
Yeah.
It was The Ringer, I believe, who said that the Michael Phelps SNL episode was the 33rd greatest episode of television in the 21st century. Are you sinking or swimming this take?
I'm sinking it. I could name 34 episodes of Below Deck that are better than this. I don't know, man. I love Phelps. I love what he's done for the sport. I think he absolutely deserves a spot on SNL. But that was not his strength. Acting is not he has many strengths. I don't think acting is one of them. And like I know that there were iconic moments in that episode. I Can See Russia from My House, that everybody now thinks Sarah Palin actually said because Tina Fey is that good. Like, that's a big moment in television history. But I don't know. I feel like if you're going to put an SNL episode on this, the host has to be better. Has to be a better actor.
Yeah. I'm thinking it too. For me, like, obviously love Phelps. He was just very stiff and like very just kind of robotic, and it didn't flow. It wasn't like anything natural for him. And it was ironic because I looked up what did other, news outlets think, and Rolling Stone ranked him the 7th worst SNL host ever. Right. So it's like for every plus there's like a negative. It's just obviously subjective. But for me personally, I thought he didn't really do all that good of a job. He just kind of went through the motions. So
well, and it was an era that had, in my opinion, and I've been watching Saturday Night Live for a long time, and I've watched a lot of reruns. I think it's one of the best casts that Saturday Night Live has ever had, just in terms of a creativity perspective, and in sort of like a world of amazing creative people who come up with really funny things. Andy Samberg and Fred Armisen and Bill Hader and Tina Fey, obviously, and Amy Poehler, like so many good people on that cast. But I don't know, Saturday Night Live is the host, right? Like, that's the hook. That's the gimmick. And if the host is the 7th worst ever, I don't know how you can do this. But, that's The Ringer. The Ringer always kind of runs to the beat of their own drum. So,
yeah, that's a definite sink for me, too. It was just such a weird take. Like, and again, Reed says it in his article on SwimSwam. You'll find the usual suspects: Sopranos, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Parks and Rec. It's like
Michael Phelps.
And Michael Phelps' SNL episode. Like, it made for a funny SwimSwam article, but it's
maybe they were just baiting SwimSwam. They wanted more swimmers in their audience, and they were baiting us.
This is so meta, Ringer.
We fell for it.
Hook, line, and sinker. But all right. And last up, which do you think will be the better meet? Atlanta Classic or this coming Mission Viejo Pro Swim?
I think it's got to be Mission Viejo just because of depth. You know, Atlanta Classic was dependent on a few stars doing something special. And when they didn't, it was just kind of a little flat. So, you know, in spite of the names who were there, I just think Mission Viejo will still have more stars, and that'll be the big show.
That's what I was going to say as well, but I'm particularly looking for Simone Manuel and Santo Condorelli. I really want to see. I know it's like totally random people, but I know. But I want to see what they put up. I really, really do. So that's why I'm vying for this meet as opposed to Atlanta Classic. Even though they had Dressel, I mean, it's like yikes.
They had Dressel for part of the time.
And they did. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the star power is gonna overwhelm the superstar power of the Atlanta Classic. We have the Sandpipers pulling out, but Grimes, Weinstein, and Caroon, it was announced, are all going to the Open Water World Cup in Italy now, which is also this weekend. But yeah, we have Cal guys. We have what's his name? Coley Stickles' pro group. We have ASU guys. We have the Mission Viejo pro group, obviously. It's some of the Texas women. Bella Sims is still entered. Some of the Texas guys. It's like it's little sprinkles of everyone getting in their last meet prep before trials, or everyone will probably do a tune-up in like early June or late May. But yeah, I think this will be a really good meet with a lot of really solid faces and races. So I'm going Mission Viejo too.
Mission Viejo.
All right. That was a short one today. That was your week's news in swimming. Tune in next time.